What happens when a victory turns into a disaster? What happens when a battle won in one corner of the country silently ignites a war in another? This is one of those stories that sounds unreal until you realize it's happening right now, to real people, in real communities that never signed up for this nightmare. At first glance, the headline feels like something ripped straight out of a political thriller or a war movie. But for the people of Benue State, especially Agatu, this is not entertainment. This is fear knocking on their doors in the dead of night. Back in December, the news felt like a breakthrough. The kind of news that makes people clap their hands and say, finally. United States forces, working alongside the Nigerian Air Force, unleashed powerful airstrikes on terrorist hideouts in Sokoto State. The targets were well-known bandit and terror groups, including the feared Lekorowe faction. Camps were destroyed. Explosions lit up the desert. The message was clear, the hammer had come down. Many believed that chapter was closed. But here's the part nobody talked about. Bombs don't always end wars. Sometimes, they just change the map. Those terrorists didn't disappear. They didn't evaporate into smoke. They ran. They scattered. And now, chilling reports confirm that their escape route led them straight into Benue State, with Agatu Local Government Area becoming ground zero for their next chapter of violence. What we are seeing now is the aftermath of pressure applied in the northwest and released in the middle belt. This morning, the situation took a frightening turn when the chairman of Agatu Local Government, Melvin AJ, broke his silence. And when he spoke, he didn't speak in riddles. He didn't sugarcoat anything. He confirmed what many residents had already feared, that the killers terrorizing Agatu today are the same hardened fighters who survived the joint American and Nigerian bombardment in Sokoto. These are not rumors. These are not assumptions. According to him, this is confirmed intelligence. Think about that for a moment. These are men who have stared down US missiles and lived to tell the story. Fighters who crawled out of the rubble, furious, traumatized, and desperate. Men with weapons, combat experience, and absolutely nothing left to lose. And now they've found themselves among farming communities that were already vulnerable. According to the chairman, once their camps were wiped out in the northwest, these fighters began moving south in waves. They crossed state lines quietly. They blended in. They used forests, riverbanks, and rural paths to avoid detection. And before anyone could stop them, they had infiltrated Agatu communities. What followed was a sudden surge in violence, attacks that locals describe as unlike anything they've seen before. This is not a simple farmer-herder clash. This is not a land dispute spiraling out of control. This is a full-blown security crisis involving battle-tested terrorists who are now imposing terror on innocent villagers who had absolutely nothing to do with what happened in Sokoto. Families who went to sleep one night thinking they were far removed from the war on terror are now waking up to gunfire, displacement, and grief. The chairman made it clear, Agatu is paying the price for a war fought hundreds of miles away. And that realization forced the local government into a corner. In a move that shocked many and angered others, Chairman Melvin announced the immediate cancellation of a grazing agreement that had been in place for nearly a decade. Back in 2017, a deal was struck by a previous administration allowing herders access to Adepiti Island for grazing. The agreement was sold to the people as a peace-building effort, a symbol of coexistence and compromise. Today, that agreement is dead. The chairman declared it invalid, calling it a dangerous mistake that exposed the community under the false promise of peace. According to him, those grazing zones are no longer just grazing zones, they have become strategic hideouts, transit points, and regrouping areas for armed elements fleeing military pressure in the northwest. With immediate effect, all armed herders were ordered to vacate Agatu land. No negotiations. No extensions. No half measures. The message was blunt and uncompromising, no portion of Agatu land belongs to herders under any disguise or agreement. This was a total shutdown, born not out of politics, but out of survival. Imagine the tension this creates. A shared space that existed for years is suddenly off limits. Trust that took years, however fragile, to build has completely collapsed. And at the center of it all are civilians caught between fear of terrorists and fear of escalation. Security analysts describe this situation as the balloon effect. You squeeze one side, it expands on the other. Sokoto was squeezed with airstrikes, and the pressure pushed the fighters into Benue. It raises a question many Nigerians are now asking in frustration and anger: how can armed groups travel across multiple states without being intercepted? Where are the roadblocks? Where is the intelligence coordination? How does this keep happening? Then came another disturbing revelation. The chairman disclosed that arrests have already been made. Some individuals are currently under investigation for allegedly aiding and abetting these fleeing terrorists. That means this crisis isn't just coming from outside, it may be getting help from within. Informants, collaborators, people who opened doors, provided information, or offered shelter. The chairman issued a strong warning that no one involved would be protected, no matter who they are. That statement alone should send chills down anyone's spine. Because when terror finds local support, even in small pockets, it becomes harder to uproot. As of now, Agatu is on edge. The local leadership has taken a hardline position, saying no harder is welcome on Agatu land until further notice. Any future discussions, if they ever happen, will only come after deep consultations with traditional rulers and community stakeholders. For now, trust is gone. Fear has replaced dialogue. This unfolding crisis is a brutal reminder that fighting insecurity is not just about air superiority or powerful bombs. It's about what happens after the smoke clears. It's about sealing escape routes, holding territory, and protecting the communities that become unintended battlefields. Because if terrorists can be cleared from Sokoto only to resurface in Benue, then the pain is not ending, it's just moving. And today, that pain has found a new home along the riverbanks of Agatu. If this story opened your eyes to how insecurity spreads and mutates across regions, make sure you stay connected. This is not the end of this story, it's only the beginning of a dangerous new phase.